So I get loads and loads of messages from various different people on the internet, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, that kind of thing, about asking me how these cards get made and saying that the videos that they're seeing are great, but they'd like to know how to do it themselves. So this time I'm going to teach you properly how to make one of these cards, and I'm going to use this as my example. Now MST is a really lovely, simple card to paint up, and it's really useful, and I've had loads of people ask me for these. So I can show you exactly what I'm doing and exactly what the processes are as I'm making them. Now first of all, I'll tell you what you need to get hold of in order to do it, because a lot of people ask me about the materials I use, and so it's important for you guys to know. Now obviously you're going to want a Yu-Gi-Oh card that you want to paint. Now, obviously we're using MST here. And the paintbrushes that I use are actually the Citadel paints that you can get from Games Workshop. Now I'm using these in a 0 and 00 size, so that they're as small as you can get them. If you can get even smaller ones, then go for it. As long as they're good quality brushes, that's all that really matters. I use two different sizes because when I'm trying to make a base cover or a base colour, then I would rather have a bigger one because it saves a lot of time. But obviously for all the details and stuff, you need the smaller one. I would also suggest picking up toothpicks. Now the reason that I use toothpicks is just in case that you go over a line or something like that. I mean, a lot of people use masking tape, but I don't like having the rigidity of where it is. And you know, I'm confident enough in my ability that I don't feel I'm sacrificing anything by doing it. Now by using the toothpicks, you can go over, and you'll see in a lot of my videos that if I have gone over a little bit, then all you need to do is wait for it to dry ever so slightly, and then very gently use the toothpick to rub some of the paint off. Now the paints that I use, I recently picked up, and they're fantastic. They're really good. They are these golden acrylics. Now there's a green one and a blue one here, and I'm using these because obviously the base colours for MST are sort of a turquoisey blue, and then we'll go over that. And the other thing that you will need is also just any old Yu-Gi-Oh card. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I probably wouldn't use this because it's an actual decent card, but you want to use these as your palettes. Now you'll see when I make my cards that I use these, the backs of these, to put paints on them because it's actually, because of the glossy surface of the card, it doesn't dry out too quick, and they're really useful for that. So if you've been sitting there wondering about what to do with all your junky Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you don't know what to do with, chuck them out or anything like that. It doesn't have to be Yu-Gi-Oh either. Magic cards work for this, Vanguard cards work for this, UFS cards work for this, they all work. And if you have your own palette, great, but you don't need one, so don't worry about it. But with that, let's get to it, and we'll show you straight from the start how I go about all these things. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to identify the background colour of the card that you're painting. In MST's case, it's quite clearly black. So you're going to take your black paint and the larger of the two brushes that you're going to be using, and you want to slather on the black with a very thin layer. Layering is very important here. I actually think I've layered this on a little bit too thick on this card, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it. The reason you're doing this is so that you can get a general mapping of the background colour so that you can build upon that with layers, as opposed to try and paint it in later because it looks horrible. And it means that you can see the definition between the text boxes that you're leaving, the icons that you're leaving. I choose to leave the quick play icon and the text box and the name box, and that means that you can quite simply go from that. As you can see here, I'm using the back of my janky card and just putting on the green, the blue and the white, and then the black that's already there, I will be using that to make the rest of the card. Right, now for the good stuff. Now, I would recommend to newer alterers that they start with the darker colours first and then work their way up. However, I, on the other hand, like to concentrate on singular areas and then sort of brush over them and then just go over them as and when I see fit. Though every artist's style is different, so I wouldn't necessarily say you have to do anything one way or the other. Though it's generally speaking a good idea to start with the darker colours first. It's the reason we started with the black. Now you can see, now the way you want to go is you want to try and make sure that you get the colours correct. Now if you can colour match to the colour that you're trying to paint on with the colours that are already there, you're not going to be able to see the difference between the card that was already printed and the card that you're painting on. So get yourself a cup of tea and learn how to start colour matching, because it is the most important thing that you will learn about altering cards. Now with MST, it's quite a circular sort of motion, it's quite simple, so I mean, it's a really good card for you to get started on. Now with this one, you see that the blues are coming out sort of very slowly. You can see that there's more shape coming through, just because I like to sort of rush myself a little bit, if you like, but I try and get the sort of the lighter colours and the darker colours in at the same time. But where you will be doing it, you will see that where there's the darker colours, sort of such as you can see just under here, there's sort of a darker shade. You want to start by doing that first over one layer, and very thin layers. Again, layering, very important. So you want to start with those thin layers, and then you want to keep just building up until you start seeing the shape forming. If you think it looks crap at the start, don't panic. I think my cards look crap at the start. You've seen how some of my cards look at the start. They don't look good. So you just have to persevere, and you just keep going through with it, and eventually you'll end up with something you really enjoy. And that's the most important thing. We're not all trying to make money or anything like that. As long as you're enjoying yourself, that's what the main thing is. Though, I mean, again, you know, I really appreciate the comments that people said last time I put up a video saying that they wanted to look into buying some of my stuff, and I'm really pleased with that. And I am looking into methods for doing this. Hopefully I'll keep you guys updated with that soon. But yes, going back to this, you can see how, you know, the layers are building up very quickly, mainly because I've sped up this video very quickly. But you expect to take sort of a couple of hours, you know, maybe an hour, slightly more, slightly less, it depends. With a card like this, it's quite simple, so I would have gone between 1 and 2 hours. With a card more detailed, obviously it's going to take a lot longer. Now, as you can see, I've put the yellow up and mixing it in with the smallest amount of yellow with the white to make the lightning. And you have to have a really steady hand for this, because obviously if it goes everywhere, it's going to look really nasty. But I tend to, after this is finished, I tend to put a signature on my cards, because that means that you can differentiate mine from other people's, and it's what you guys come here to see. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you learned something from all this, and I will see you all later.